Hey everyone. Let's get set up, wait for some people to join us. We can get into the coaching for today. Hey Dom Dom, hey Tomas. Let me know if you can hear me. Everything's good. I'd originally set up outside today, but I got rained out, so I had to hurry on inside. And yep, so my setup kind of was put together a bit quick. Hey Alex, so hopefully you guys can hear me. Hopefully this is working. Um, all right, yeah. Hey everyone. So have you guys been sailing? Maui's been so windy and also so rainy. It's crazy how wet it's been and wet it is right now. Looking out the window, it's pouring rain. Maui's super wet, always. It, which is why it's so green here. Um, hey Thomas. Yeah, it was raining a lot. I was sitting outside, and it started coming in. It's like we've got like a covered deck, but the rain was coming in at an angle. It's been kind of crazy conditions on Maui. We had a lot of wind this week. I was sailing. I didn't sail yesterday, but the day before I was sailing at Hokipa on a 4-2 fully powered, which like never happens. Never happens. I'm never on a 4-5. 4-2 is my smallest size I have on Maui. Victor Fernandez was on a 3-7. Adam Lewis was on a 3-4. Just crazy windy. Like mast high kind of wind swell waves. Pretty crazy conditions for Maui. It's just never like that. And one thing that's interesting, over the last like 3-4 months, I've been keeping track of my like heart rate and stuff with this is a Whoop, WHOOP, but you can do that with the Garmin, or the Fitbit has some other monitors and stuff like that. And one of the things I found really interesting was this really windy session. So I sailed for just a little bit less than 3 hours, like what I'd normally do, and I felt like I normally did. It didn't feel. I mean, yeah, it was kind of a crazy session because it was so windy, and there's a lot of unpredictable things when it's so windy. But in general, my body felt the same as it does in a normal session. But looking at the data, which I guess is mainly coming from the heart rate, it was way more exhausting for my body than a normal session, even though I didn't feel it. And so I think that's something that is really important to be aware of, that when we're sailing in these really windy conditions, whether it's in Pozo or in France or wherever it is, I mean, there's a lot of places where you're often sailing in really strong winds, 40 plus winds. And it really takes a toll on your body. And so you have to be, even if you don't feel it, I think you have to be aware that, okay, this is harder for my body than when I'm sailing on a 5-0. And just be aware of that. And that might not mean anything, you might do everything exactly the same. But it might mean that you go a little bit shorter. It means you need to hydrate a lot more. Especially when it's windy, I think your body is, because when you're exerting yourself, you're sweating a lot, and when it's windy, then you kind of feel it less, but also the wind is just drying your skin out anyway. Like Pozo, I feel like you're under a hair blower the whole time you're there in the village, and so you have to drink so much water. And so just being aware of these things, I think can be really useful. So to make sure that you're getting the right nutrition, you're getting the right hydration, and maybe you take a day off. Like I took yesterday off, and I don't know if I would have done that if I didn't realize how much I'd exerted my body the day before. But I realized, okay, that was hard on my body. I'm going to take it easy for a day. The conditions don't look great. And then hopefully I'm going to come back today on the water after a day off. So that was kind of one interesting lesson from that session. Sounds like you guys have been having some sailing. Dom Dom had a good week in France. One session, 75 plus, 3.7, though underpowered. Lesson for the new small board: don't play the smallest sail as possible. Yeah, figuring out like what sails work with what boards is important, and trial by error is one of the best ways to learn. Alex said 3-3 conditions Tuesday with great waves. Cool. But you think it's going to be the last big wind until winter? Ugh. Well, hopefully you get another one. Daniel's here. Cheers. Leon's here. Carl's here. Tristan says he had a nice sideshore starboard tack session with 5-3 but needed a 4.7. Tried 2 360s. Good sensation. Ended more like a tabletop goose screw. And Max is here. Yeah, so one of the things with the 360 and like the goose screw, if you're pushing it too hard, that's when you start getting this kind of tweaked position. And you really don't need to push the 360. Like the two, well, I don't know if it's two. Let me just start saying the important things with the 360. Is that wide grip, that front hand close to the hip, the open sail, and leaning into the circle. So when you've got the radius of your bottom turn circle, you're leaning into that circle. It's really easy to lean out of the circle and to want to throw it around, but you just want to lean into that circle and really do nothing else. Stay sheeted out, and you'll rotate around. You really don't have to force it. But it sounds like you're figuring out the motion. That sounds good. If you get some footage, Tristan, you know what to do with it. Post it in the group. Ragnar, cool. The ice is melting. Almost time to start sailing. That sounds good. Yeah, I heard that Europe is warming up. I'm still on Maui, but I'm supposed to go back, or I'm planning to go back to Europe in about a week. And I don't know what the situation's like with COVID or anything. I've got to check that out. Maui has been pretty relaxed. There's not a lot of COVID here. And yeah, so I'm not sure how it is in Europe. I'd like to do a trip in March, maybe to the Canaries, if that's possible. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, that's enough about that. Let's jump into the coaching. We had a lot of discussion in the group this week about harnesses and gear setup, and this is really important to talk about and to deal with. It can make a huge difference. Like, one of the things I found is that I've been trying to get some footage for you guys with the Insta360 cam, and so I've got a harness mount for that, and I've been having to wear my harness a bit differently than normal, so like a lot tighter, and it screws me up so much. Like, I can't unhook when I want to tack. I'm in an awkward position when I'm just sailing around straight. It's amazing how big of a difference it makes. Just some of these little changes that I've had to do to get the camera set up working on the harness. Which also makes me think, that it's really important for all of you guys to pay attention to how your harness is set up. And it sounds like you're doing that. We've got some great threads in the group with a lot of comments, and people are discussing it. I like to have a loose harness that is fixed, but the whole harness can kind of move around my body. And for me, that's what works best. But you've got to experiment, try different things. I know some people really like a sliding hook. Some people like that harness cinched down really tight. So, depends. I think a lot of the pro guys are riding loose harnesses. Does that mean it's right for everyone? I don't know. I definitely like a loose harness that kind of moves around my body. I can sail with a sliding hook or a fixed hook. At the moment, I prefer a fixed hook. Hey, Mario. Oh, Thomas said he had mast high, or it's mast high next Sunday. Sounds good. All right, we've got some more discussion about gear. It'd be interesting to see what people are saying. I posted this video about forwards. That's on my YouTube channel. You can find it on in our group as well, in the coaching group. If there's anyone watching that's not in the coaching group, this is where a lot of this discussion takes place during the week. It's Graham Ezzy's Windsurf coaching community on Facebook. You can ask questions, post comments, post photos, post videos. We discuss it as a group. I get my coaching. We do that throughout the week, and then it's a great foundation for these live streams. So I base what I talk about in the live stream off of the discussion that was in the group for the week. So no question is too small or too big. If you're trying to learn double forwards or you're trying to tack better, it's all fair game. All right. Axel asks if I've got no problems with a loose harness riding up. Axel, I actually find the opposite. I find that the loose harness kind of sinks, like falls down again. Whereas if I have a tighter harness, it gets pulled up and then it stays there because it's tight, and then I've got to really push it down. If you're having issues with the harness riding up, one is I make sure you've got long enough harness lines, because the short harness lines definitely pull up the harness if your harness lines are too short. Two is maybe to pay a little bit of attention to how you're standing. So what I've been paying a lot of attention to that recently, and I've realized that I really use my body and harness to apply a lot of pressure to the boom when I'm sailing, and I'm really kind of fine-tuning how the sail is being held up using my body and body weight through the harness. And I think that helps keep the harness in one position, because there's a lot of force, like horizontal force on the harness that keeps it in place rather than like vertical force or something. So I'm really pushing back against the boom with my body. And using that, and then I've got really light hands when I'm sailing. You know, my hands are not tight. You know, I'm sailing with my fingertips, and my body is really holding most of the force, and the hands are just for fine tuning. If I'm doing a move, of course, then I'm grabbing it and doing something and probably unhooking. But for just sailing around, I've got light hands, and I'm using my body a lot, which helps keep the harness in place. And then with the loose harness, I feel like it kind of just falls down where I want it to, or it's easy to push down if I do have to push it down. Dom, if you switch to a loose waist harness, will you need longer or shorter lines? I think you'll need longer lines from what I've seen. Like, it can kind of sit lower on your body. It'd be interesting to test it, you know, if someone has a harness you can borrow, and I guess then you need to put on longer lines for that testing, but you might find it makes a difference. There was a period a few years ago where I wasn't sure what was the best harness setup for me, and so I tested a bunch of different things. I had different harness lines, different kinds of harnesses, and there's a period of like 2 months where I spent the whole time testing them, and that's where I decided I was going to wear a loose fixed harness. Before that, I was wearing kind of a tight sliding bar harness, but with a loose hook, which I had kind of grown up with, so I was comfortable with it, and I felt weird to sail with a fixed hook after that, but I think my performance is better with the fixed hook and the loose harness, because sometimes the loose hook would get it'd be hard maybe to unhook sometimes with the sliding hook, and I felt like maybe I didn't have as much control on the one-handed jumps. Hey Olaf, so that was my thinking for the harnesses. So it's interesting to test. I think there's definitely some elements of personal preference there, but it's good to be aware of. All right, so Carl, glad you liked the video. Yeah, with the forward, like, this is one of the biggest issues, mental issues that I see with people, is they think of it like a somersault, and they're expecting their head to go under their heels, and so they're really hucking themselves forward, which is not what you want to do. That actually hurts the rotation if you're hucking your body forward, you know, throwing yourself forward like a somersault on a trampoline. It's really this spin. So it's more like if you're doing a spin on a trampoline. It's a much similar rotation to that than a somersault. So hopefully that's helpful for anyone who's learning forwards or maybe already doing forwards and just wants a better rotation on them. We had a bit of discussion about wetsuits. I see we've got 67 comments here. That's great. I love the Matus wetsuits. I'm not sure if the company is still making suits. I guess they are. I find that their rubber is amazing, and the fits for me are amazing. They feel great. I can wear a thinner suit, and it's warmer because of how good the neoprene is. I've got a promo code there, which is somewhere here in the comments. I think it's Matus Sale, all one word, and you get if it still works, you get a bit of a discount on their website. So, good wetsuit makes a huge difference. I can get most anything in the windsurf surf industry for free from somewhere because I'm a pro. Wetsuits are something that I'll pay for. So I got some suits from Matus, but I've also bought suits from them, and they're not cheap, but it makes a big difference. Having a good wetsuit makes a big difference. And yeah, so I mean, having a good wetsuit means you get more time on the water, means you're happier on the water, means you can focus on your performance, makes a big difference. Dom is asking, horizontal versus vertical front. Do you need more wind for a horizontal loop, meaning more powered up? No, I think it's the same. I think it's the same amount of wind for doing a vertical or horizontal rotation for the forward. I don't think it makes a difference. Yeah, all right. Got a question about roof rack straps from Mark. I'm not sure if there's much that I can add. It looks like there's some great answers in the comments. I use the standard windsurf surfing roof rack straps, that are like a webbing with a buckle, and just cinch that thing down tight. I've had, I want to say, like about every experience you can have with boards and straps and roof racks. A few years ago, I was driving like full speed on the German Autobahn and I lost the board off the top. That was not good. I was going to the World Cup in Sylt, and so I was driving up from Hamburg, and we've got to take a train, like a car train, to get to then the island of Sylt. And I was planning to get the last train of the evening, and the competition was starting the next day. And there wasn't forecasted to be any wind, so it was okay to arrive like kind of that night. And I'd have, the next day to set up, do the registration, and rig my sails. But I was a bit rushed getting all the stuff together and packing up the car. And I had a bunch of board bags. So I had like a board bag, a sail bag, and a mast bag on the roof, and a bunch of stuff inside the car as well. And I had one extra board I wanted to bring. And so I just threw that without a bag just on top of all those other bags on top of the car. I cinched it down really, really tight with with the webbing, with the straps, like you'd normally do. Something I do just for safety as well is I put the straps, I've got roof racks on the car, but I put the straps through the car rather than through the roof racks, because that way you're never going to lose everything. Like I've seen roof racks come off of a car before, loaded roof racks with windsurf gear come off. So if you're just tying the strap to the roof racks, there is the risk that the roof racks fail. But if you're going through the car, that's not going to happen. So I thought I was safe. I had everything tight. Driving, I don't know how many, 160, 170K. I mean, my car's not that fast, so that's probably pushing it. Maybe it was a little bit less than that because I got all the stuff on the roof. But really, like pushing it for the car on the German Autobahn, driving up to Nibel is where the train is. And I guess what had happened is because I had all these different bags, like the board bag, the sail bag, the mast bag, there might have even been a boom bag, everything kind of readjusted itself. And so even though I tightened the straps down a lot, everything had kind of readjusted itself a bit and like settled and moved around. And so it had gotten kind of loose. And so the board, like the loose board that I put in there, it was just loose enough that it started slipping out. And I was driving with my wife, and she's the one that noticed that the board was kind of hanging off the back. And she said, oh, like she screamed. And so then I started really slowing down. And like in that moment, it flew off. And luckily, there was no one behind us and no one was hurt. It flew off and went right onto the side of the road. So it wasn't ever in the road. Thankfully, it wasn't endangering anyone. And I pulled over on the side and ran back to get it. And the board wasn't really damaged. Actually, it had landed on the bottom and slid, and one of the screws from the slot box had caught like on the asphalt and had like torqued to break the box, but that was the only damage on the board. And that was a good lesson for me as well. I mean, it's amazing. I don't know how many thousands of times I put stuff on the car, but just that not to do it in a rush, to be aware that when you've got multiple bags on the top, that they can readjust, right? And so if I'm ever going to do that in the future where I have to have a loose board, which I think you don't want to have a loose board because that's the kind of thing that can kind of slip through those cracks. And it makes it a bit awkward with when you're tensioning the strap, so that can happen where everything readjusts. Is I'd put the strap through the foot strap of the board just to make sure that it's not ever going to fly off. But in general, you want to make sure your stuff is in boards. That helps keep it tight on there. And so that's just one little story. I've also had a roof rack go through a board before. So it was like a really long strap, and I guess it got loose, and the board wasn't in a bag, and the strap was kind of flying loose. It got caught in a tire, and then the tire cinched the strap, and the strap went through the board. We fixed the board, but that was a pretty bad ding. The strap just crushed it, and it made like a hole in the board, in the rail, the size or the width of the webbing. So there are a lot of things that can go wrong. It's good to be careful with it. I think like I've done it so many times I can rush it quite a bit. But yeah, it's good to be careful with it. JA just got a new board for Silt in Denmark. Sweet. Let us know how it is. If you get some photos, post it in the group. Or if you're not on Facebook, you can reach out to me directly. Ragnar says that his surf buddy had 3 boards fly off the roof on the highway in September because he put his strap on the outside of the bar close to the tip. Broke the roof of the car. The boards need repair. Yeah, that sounds bad. Yeah, you've got to be careful. It's really easy once you've done this 100 times to think, oh, it's fine, nothing ever goes wrong. But it can go wrong, and so you've got to be aware when you're putting the stuff on the roof. And I always prefer to put it inside the car if I can. Yeah, Pier Francesco said he lost a complete roof rack on the motorway. Luckily, it didn't hit anyone. Yeah, I agree. You got to put the strap through the car. Tomas is saying to do the first four with upwind, not downwind. I disagree with that. Mark is saying, of a board coming off of someone's roof and going through the windscreen of the car behind. Yeah, it sounds bad. There can be there's a lot of risk if the stuff flies off. I saw once on Maui, there was a pro windsurfer driving in front of me, and the Formula board flew off the car, which was crazy, because it's, this big wide board, and so it really picked up the wind and really flew into the traffic. And luckily, like, it hit the road and it bounced and it went off the road. No one was hurt, but yeah, it happens. So just to be careful with it. There was a question raised by Alex about foot straps. I use the Dakine Primos. We've got some good recommendations of people using other straps and their reports about what those straps feel like. Hey, Greg. Yeah, we're just going over some of the stuff that was posted in the group. If you've got questions, then you can, of course, post them in the chat. You guys are always welcome to. I also had a few people send me footage this week, people who are not in the Facebook group, and I don't think I'm going to be able to do that footage in the live stream now. I think what the best format for that, which is totally great, if you're watching this on YouTube and you're not in the Facebook group, that's fine. You can send me footage for the coaching. And I think the best way for me to do that is to still post it in the Facebook group. So I'll post it myself. And that just provides a nice reference for everyone else that's following the coaching. And so for the two guys that sent me footage who are not in the Facebook group, just know that that's what I'm going to do, and I'll try to get to it next week. Yeah, I think that's a better format, because then we still have this discussion going on in the week. I know that then you're not there, you who sent me the footage, but I still think it's a little bit, it keeps it consistent at least. So I think we're going to stick to that. York asks, any off-season training tips when the gym is not an option due to COVID? This is an old question, which we had some answers to. Looks like we've got some new posts that people were updating. So that's great. I love it when you guys are contributing, and this is, I didn't name this, Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching broadcast or Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching. It's Graham Ezzy's Windsurf Coaching community, because you guys, the community, are the most important part. We've got some great team effort for putting the time codes on the YouTube videos. And I love seeing stuff like this where you guys are contributing with some exercises and helping each other out. It's awesome to see. Mario asks about Dakine. So those of you who follow the rumors or the industry might know that, Dakine stopped doing windsurfing products last year. It just ended suddenly. So I've been with Dakine since the beginning of my career, and I had a really good relationship with them. Just one day I got an email from Bill, the guy that ran the wind department, who said that he'd been let go. Everyone had been let go. The wind was no more. And I thought, oh shit, that's that. And I wanted to get some extra gear, couldn't get it. I still had an outstanding invoice, didn't pay it. So that was kind of a bummer, and there's a big question mark. But there's good news at the end of the story. There's a rainbow, or silver lining, whatever you want to call it. So Dakine, so it seems, was bought by a company that does licensing deals. So they buy companies, break them up, and sell the different licenses. So the windsurfing license, it's actually the wind license, so it's all one umbrella that includes windsurfing, kitesurfing, and winging, was bought by a company in the US, and they seem really cool. So I've been having some discussions with the guy that's in charge of that project for them. They reached out to me, and they are really keen to get Dakine going again. And they're looking to hire the same designers and the same team riders, and they really want to connect with the spirit and history that is Dakine windsurfing, because it has such a solid history. Dakine is one of the core windsurfing companies, and Dakine really grew through windsurfing. Dakine is a windsurfing company, even though later it became more of a general action sports company or board sports company. It's a windsurfing company at its core. So it's cool that the new the people who have the license now are really keen to keep that up, and they've got the design so they can keep making the products that were previously made. I believe they started doing production already. I was supposed to have a phone call with them last week, but we just couldn't find a time to make that happen. So hopefully this coming week I'll have a phone call with them, and I can share that information with you guys for whoever is curious. But the sort of short answer is that yes, it's true that they stopped producing windsurfing accessories, but they're starting again. Dakai's ownership has changed. It feels like a lot over the last 10 years. It was sold by the founder to Billabong, I want to say about 10 years ago, maybe 7-8 years ago. And then Billabong was going through some financial difficulties, and it has bounced around since then. And so hopefully now we're coming into a more stable period with Dakai, which would be great for us. Because I've been pretty happy with their products. I love the foot straps, the harnesses, the harness lines, the bags. Yeah, all right. Thomas has posted this video with a push loop, which is pretty cool. I've been working on getting some POV video as well from different moves like the push loop, and so I'm gonna post that. I've been filming with the 360 camera. I know, or you guys might remember that I was unsure what to get. You guys recommended the Insta360, and that's what I've been using. I've been pretty happy with it, though I can't really get the remote to work, which is annoying. But anyway, what the big question is whether it's interesting for you guys if I post 360 videos on YouTube, because YouTube can support it, where then you can kind of like scroll around through the video, and maybe that's interesting from a learning perspective. We got a question from Ragnar. Suggestion on straps designed for boots. I have issues with somewhat large feet, and I need to use boots. Difficult to get standard straps in a shape that I like. That's a really good question, and unfortunately I don't have an answer. Hopefully this is something where the community can provide you with some support. I don't have a lot of experience sailing with boots. I really like the Dakai Primos, but I can understand if it doesn't have enough webbing to support a big foot in a boot. So I wonder if anyone else has a suggestion. If you can't find anything, I wonder if it's possible to custom make something. I could look into that. I wonder if we could do that in our Ezzy factory, or if Dakai could do that for you. Let me know. So see if the community can provide you with some good options, and if not, Ragnar, if you still can't find something, reach out to me or do a post in a group, and I'll see if we can do something a bit custom, either in the Ezzy factory or with the Dakai. I don't know if we can, but it shouldn't be too hard. All right. All right, Daniel asks about changing the German sales service. You know what? I don't know, but I can put you directly in touch with them, Daniel. I can do that after the stream. I'll put you in touch with the guys who are doing Dakai. Thomas says he sent a hip harness to Hood River. Definitely got angry and sent back. Hopefully new designers of harnesses. At least they sent it back. Oh, H is here. Cheers, H. Good to see you. Are you sailing these days? I'd love to see some more footage if you got it. And I hope you're good. We miss you in the Facebook group. Brian said he agrees with Ragnar. Yep, makes sense. Thomas recommends the Witchcraft straps. I have no experience with them, but it'd be great if you guys can give some reports. Wow, there's custom straps made in Italy. That's cool. Cool. Sounds like there's some great options for straps. So Ragnar, check those out. See if you find something that works, and if you don't, like I said, reach out to me and we'll see what we can do. Axel posted this video about wind skating, which I was thinking, those of you who have been following me know that I spent a lot of time in Hamburg, in Germany, and there's not a lot of windsurfing in the direct vicinity. So I was thinking of getting a wind skate setup for Hamburg. Uh, yeah, I'm gonna look into that this summer. But there's some cool stuff. I think it's definitely a good way to practice certain skills. You can practice the sail handling skills. You can practice some footwork, some different things going through the wind. All right, I'm gonna try and make some T-shirts for the group. That's something you guys have expressed interest in before. There's looks like I found a way to do it in Portugal, which is organic and sustainable and cool shirts and fits and fabrics, all the above. So I'm gonna get some designs for you guys to look at, and then yeah, if you guys like them, then we can make them. Got some posts about competitions. So the competition is something that you guys are getting more and more interested in, which I love to see. We were talking about doing a specific competition stream at some point, and maybe I can go over, because it seems like we don't have a lot of other topics today. I can go over some of those things today, and if you guys have more specific questions. I think that competitions, especially amateur competitions, are great. I think they are a good way to improve your skill. They're fun. It's a good vacation activity if you can go to an amateur event somewhere. It really forces you to look at your windsurfing with clear eyes. I really recommend amateur competitions. Pro competitions, I'm actually less psyched about. I think competing on the pro side, I don't know if it's really worth it. Anyway, that's a topic for a different time. How valuable pro competition is, which I spent a lot of my life doing. But amateur competition, I think, is really good because, like, I'm sure that the community here hasn't had a lot of time in competition, in heats, and so those first few experiences are really really instructive. You learn so much about your sailing, about wave selection, because it's just so new. And yeah, the IWT is good, open for amateurs. Hopefully that continues. I'd also like to put on some of my own events. That might be too much for this year, because with this coaching thing, we're kind of just starting. I still feel like this is in the infancy, and competitions are something that I think should come a little bit later as we grow with the community. But I would really like to do my own events. And the other nice thing with amateur events rather than pro events is it's just for fun. Like pro events, we're fighting for our lunch. It's our salary. It's how we get paid, and there's something that kind of takes the fun out of it on the pro side. But on the amateur side, I'm a big fan of competitions, and you can do like more playful formats. Like one of the problems with pro competition is there's an inherent subjective element to competing, and that kind of sucks when then it's like your career on the line. But if it's just for fun, who cares? It's just for fun. So it's subjective. So what? I did not take part in the Denmark down the line contest. I think I was in Maui then. I think that was in October, and I think I'd gone to Maui. The last event I did, I guess, was the Aloha Classic last year. But cool that you guys have had some good experience with amateur competition. Like I said, I'd love to organize something. Canaries is probably the easiest, but I've got to look into that. It'd be fun to do an amateur competition. I like the idea of doing like a really fun, focused competition, kind of like the Defi Wind style, but for waves. Like what the Defi, for you guys who don't know, the Defi is is the largest windsurfing event in the world. I think they've had competitions with over 1,000 competitors, and it's a long distance race. And what's great about the format is everyone can do it. You don't have to be, a pro slalom sailor to do the race, because you don't have so many jibes. You just got one jibe, right? Which is makes that kind of racing format a lot easier and a lot more accessible. And then you can kind of approach it with like whatever intensity you want. So pro guys can still do it, and they're out in front, but then the rest of the fleet is behind them, and they're also having a great time. So I'm thinking of like a format for like fun wave events. Yep. All right. So we've got a few questions. So Giovanni, I'm going to just speed through these. Giovanni says, passing Whitewater, that could be interesting. Yeah, so this is something that actually I recorded a video on and didn't post because I wanted to get different footage for it. With Whitewater, one of the most important thing is the angle of the board. So you want to make sure that the nose of the board is pointing perpendicular to the Whitewater. So if this is the oncoming Whitewater, you want to make sure it's perfectly perpendicular, and that allows it to pop over it. If you've got a bit of angle, then what happens is the Whitewater starts catching the board. So the most important thing is that angle, getting that perpendicular angle. And then the Whitewater rides under the nose rocker, and the board is designed to lift, to fly on the water. So you get that Whitewater under the nose rocker, and the board will ride up over the Whitewater rather than getting pushed back. But that angle is the most important thing. Next, you want to make sure that you're leaning back enough and you have enough speed. So like with everything in windsurfing, the faster you're going, the easier it is. So if you've got a big Whitewater coming at you and you're not going that fast, start pumping. Try and build up your speed. And then, like I said, again, the most important thing is getting that angle. And then you lean back, you've got enough speed. Once the Whitewater is like directly under you, then you can lean forward again and go past it. But even if you don't lean forward again and you're just leaning back, you can get over it, and then you kind of land on your butt and kind of water start out of it, and you've gotten over that Whitewater. So for like really huge Whitewaters, like if I'm going over a mast high Whitewater, that's what I'm going to do. It's just like really keep leaning back, get that angle right, and just really get the nose up and just climb that wall. And then plan to come up the wall like this, kind of land on my butt, water start out. But for smaller Whitewaters, then you want to lean forward there. And make sure you've got enough speed. But that angle is the most important thing, getting that nose angle and getting that Whitewater under the nose rocker. And then the board just rides and flies over it. I'll release that other video. My plan is to do one YouTube video a week, like I did this forward one. And I've got a long list. You guys submitted some things, which I got in a spreadsheet. And I've got my own topics as well. So my plan is to just keep pumping out one YouTube video a week on each of those different topics. Because I love the live stream format. It's great to have this interaction, but I can go a little bit deeper into topics on these like dedicated videos. Like now I've done the windsurfing fundamentals one. So if you haven't watched these, I recommend watching them. They're on my YouTube channel. There's one on wave fundamentals. There's one on 360s if you're interested in 360s. And then I just released the one on forward loops. And I've got a list, like I said. So I'm just going to try to keep pumping these out. Do one a week. All right. Next question. Tristan says, can it be useful to train jumping full downwind to train for aerials? No, I don't think so. I think aerials are pretty different than jumps. What jumping does that helps with the aerials is just your body awareness in the air on that tack. So like if I'm sailing a bunch of port tack, doing a bunch of jumping, and then I come to Maui, I've got more awareness in my aerials because I've been more in the air on that side, on that tack. But the actual dynamics of getting in the air are pretty different. But that awareness can really help. So if you're doing jumps on starboard tack, they will help your port tack aerials, and vice versa. But it is a different. It's a different dynamic. It's a very different dynamic. Aerials is another one that's on the list. It was one that you guys requested, and so that's going to be a dedicated YouTube video as well. But one of the things that I think is really important to realize is that the aerial is not a jump. The aerial is not a jump, and if you approach it like a jump, it might work sometimes, but it's often not going to work. And you've got to think of it more like a surfing maneuver, where you're really getting that board fit into the wave, and the wave is providing the push to get you into the air. And so what I think is useful to think about is not trying to project up, but trying to project in front of the wave. So you're focused on not height, but projection in front of the wave. Cheers, Olaf. Sounds good. Thanks for joining. All right, H asks, what's a good path to sail PWA wave competitions? Okay, so Pozo and Tenerife are probably the easiest competitions to enter. Maui and Silt often have a full ladder. Between Pozo and Tenerife, which one is easier to get into? It kind of depends on the year. Some have more participants than others, but in general, in order to get in, you're going to need a wild card if you've never done the competition before. And one of the best ways to get a wild card, I'm on the committee that chooses the wild cards for these events, and so we look at these applications, these wildcard applications. And there's kind of two main things we're looking at. One is previous results. So if you have results from your local tour, or the IWT or the French tour or any of these other tours, those are interesting. And then two is some kind of video that shows your ability. And when you're doing that video, it's nice if it's not just like, an action video with quick cuts and music, but maybe shows like 3 or 4 wave rides completely, 3 or 4 jumps completely, just to kind of get a picture of your ability. And it's difficult for sure choosing wildcards accurately, but then there's a trials. So it depends. Like some of these events, they end up not having trials because it kind of fits in just with the ladder. So it depends on the year, but often there is a trials event. But really, so it starts with getting local results, so results from other tours, whether it's the British tour, the French tour, the IWT tour, and then creating a video. Going forward as well, we're trying to do events that have lower prize money and lower points. And the theory is that these events are also good entry points for people, because you're not going to have all of the top 16 going to an event with only 10,000 prize money and fewer points for the world title race. So then you could go to one of those events. I don't have the PWA calendar in front of me, so I'm not sure if there's any of these lower star events planned for this year. This year is in general just really difficult because of COVID, but that's generally the path to getting into a PWA competition. You can write me directly as well, and I can give you more advice if that's interesting for you. John is saying the beach is still closed. Any recommendations for fitness, toughing up my hands? So John, there's a video on my YouTube about towel hang pull-ups. And so basically you just put towels over like a pull-up bar and you're holding onto the towels and doing pull-ups. Um, I found that's one of the best exercises for keeping your like forearm, your grip strength, and like some of these other muscles that you need for windsurfing. So for example, I did these a lot when I was in university and I wasn't able to sail a lot, and I found that helped with my windsurfing fitness. Because a lot of times like you can stay really fit and you're going to the gym all the time, but then you don't windsurf for 2 months and you get on the water and you've got like this forearm cramp explosion. You can only sail for 20 minutes. So it's really important to work on your grip, work on your forearms. I find that that's the weak point, like that's the weak link in the chain. Like often my back will stay strong for months. The back is super important for windsurfing, but the grip strength is the one that I notice first that goes. So those towel hang pull-ups are pretty good. There's a video on my YouTube. I'll post it. I can post it in the group. You should be able to find it on my YouTube easily. Towel hang pull-ups. It's on my YouTube. And then I've also got somewhere on the YouTube, we did an interview with Sarah Hauser as part of the live stream. And she's not only a great windsurfer herself, but also a physical trainer. And she gave like a little workout to do at home if you're stuck at home in quarantine and not able to go to the gym, not able to go sailing. And so that was also useful for kind of general fitness. I'm going to do some more fitness videos as well. It's something I'm kind of shy to do because I'm not a trained physio or like fitness instructor. I don't have any credentials there. I just do what I do and it seems to work for me, based on what other people have taught me. So I'm scared of like teaching it wrong because I don't want you guys to get injured because I'm showing the wrong form or something. But the towel hang pull-ups, there's no risk of injury. They're great. You should do them if you're not sailing. Olaf has some recommendations as well. Greg says pull-ups or rowing. Yeah, pull-ups are great. Thomas says that trials start before registration. Yeah. Cool. All right. Very boring surf weather in Holland. Oh no. That's too bad to hear. I would love to get some more good days in the Netherlands. I had a lot of fun sailing. I went, I must have been like 2 years ago now, to Hoek van Holland for a swell. And I sailed the day before that in Vikensee. I'm probably butchering these pronunciations. And I was so impressed. It was so much fun on the Hoek van Holland session. I mean, Vikensee was also fun, but Hoek van Holland was pretty nice. Down the line, punchy beach break. It was fun. I used to do this blog that was been offline for 5 or 6 years. Maybe you guys used to follow it, some of you. I put that back online. I might start adding to it. I'm not sure. Pierre Francesco, what do you want to posted? Just clarify. You want Max to post his press-up challenge, or you want me to post something? Let me know, and I'll get it posted if you want. I think that's it for what was posted. I want to say a few things about kind of the mental side of the sport. And oh yeah, we were going to talk about competition stuff, but I think what I'll just say about competitions is it's great to do amateur competitions. I think you learn a lot about your windsurfing. You'll improve a lot doing them if you haven't done them before. Hey, Daniel. And so I recommend doing amateur competitions if you have the chance, and just approach it as something fun to do. We can do a competition-focused live stream, but I'd like to get some more specific questions for you guys rather than just rambling on about things that might or might not be relevant to you. So I recommend giving it a try. So I want to wrap up this live stream with just a couple comments about the mental side. Daniel sent some great footage, which I've been going through. But like I said to you guys earlier, I think the best format for that is I'm going to post it in the group. Daniel's not on Facebook, but I think I'll post it in the group. And I think that's the best kind of workflow for this. And then I can go over it more fully next week. I think that's the best workflow. We're experimenting, we're learning, we're adapting. You know, we started doing these live streams on Instagram, we moved to Facebook, now we're on YouTube. So we're learning and growing, and so we'll see. So I think for the workflow, I'm gonna post these in the group, and I'll go over them next week. Dan had some great sailing from Tenerife, and there's a lot to look at there. All right, so some closing thoughts on the mental side. So this is something we touched on last week, and it's something that I was thinking about a lot over the week till now. And so you always want to be able to commit 100%. It's when you don't commit, it's when you hesitate, it's when you pull back, it's when you tighten up that you get injured, that you get hurt, that you fall, that things go wrong. You want to be loose, you want to be going fast, you want to be able to commit. And it really comes down to the head. So my belief is that you want to always choose a line, like a line on the wave, that you can commit to 100%. And you know that before you start. And if you can't commit to it, choose a different line. So if the waves are too big or too scary, go earlier. Maybe you're not even turning at all. Maybe you're just going straight and just feeling the power of the wave and then driving off. Maybe you're riding the Whitewater. You know, maybe you're kind of just feeling a bit at the face of the wave, and you go out in front of it, you wait till it breaks, wait till the Whitewater gets small enough, and then doing some turns on the Whitewater. But make sure that you can commit 100%, and that allows for the best performance and also the least injuries. And I think one example kind of that I came up with in my head, I was thinking about after that stream, is like, say you've got a piece of wood that's like, whatever, 30 centimeters wide, like a foot wide, and say 5 meters long, 20 feet long. I guess that's 15 feet, 16 feet long. And it's lying on the ground. It's no problem for you to walk across that piece of wood, right? You can walk across that piece of wood all day long. Now let's lift it up. Let's put it 2 feet off the ground, right? So it's sitting on something like 60 cm tall. You can probably still walk across that thing all day long. It's not a problem. Now let's put it between two buildings, right? Now it's on skyscrapers. Now if you fall, you're going to die. It suddenly gets a lot harder to walk across it because of the mental side, because you're scared, because you're tight, and the fear is inhibiting your body's performance, and your mind is doing all these other things, and it's not focusing on what you're doing. Your body is not functioning properly as it normally would because you're scared, because you're tight, because you're hesitating. And so it's the same thing with windsurfing. You know, even if you have the ability, if you're taking lines that you can't commit to 100%, where you're scared like that, you're not going to perform up to your ability, and even worse is you're going to risk crashing and getting hurt. So you really want to be conscious of choosing a line, choosing an approach to the wave that you can commit to 100%, and then work up to bigger waves, bigger sections. But don't think that you need to charge right away, that you need to go for the big waves right away. You know, work up. There's so much to work on in every size wave that, you know, whatever your ability is, you can commit to 100%. You know, and this comes back to fear, and you know, this is something that is, I think, a really important topic, and it's something that I've been trying to do some more research about from the sports psychology perspective to help you guys. Something that I do that's helpful is I focus on my breathing. So just that awareness of breathing in and out, and then being aware of the sensations that my body has. So like the feeling of the water on me, the feeling of holding on to the boom, paying attention to, the feeling of the currents, the water moving against my skin, on my legs. And that helps me to be present. It helps me not to panic. Um, I think that's where I'm talking about, where I'm in the water getting worked. And then riding waves, I'm really just trying to choose a line that I can commit to 100%. Um, Max is asking about hypnotism. Um, that's interesting. So I worked with a sports psychologist um, once to help me with windsurfing competition, and we were doing scripts for like a heat, like planning a heat, and I found it terrible. It was bad for me, which I don't think that means that the technique is bad, but I think you have to be careful how you use it with windsurfing. So how this psychologist was using it with me is we were visualizing specific wave rides, like a perfect heat. But the problem is with windsurfing, and this is like one of my like big points that I'm going to keep coming back to always in the coaching, is you can't project onto the wave. You can't project onto the ocean. If you do that, it's just not going to work, right? The ocean is this unpredictable, massive force that is so much greater than you or me, and you have to dance with it. And it's the ocean's leading the dance, and so you have to read the wave and react to it. You can't project onto it. So you can't think before you get on the wave what you're going to do. You have to get on the wave and see what the wave allows you to do. And so one way to help you do that is to develop certain heuristics, like certain ways of thinking about wave riding that make that process easier. So like, for example, looking for the smooth area to bottom turn, making sure, just focusing where you're going to bottom turn in a smooth area, making sure that you have the hand dynamics correct. Going from power source to power source, this is something that we talk about a lot. Getting the high five. And so focusing on these heuristics rather than thinking about, oh, I'm going to do a sliding cut back, and then I'm going to do an aerial, then I'm going to do a 360 or whatever it is. And so like a script, I think, could be really useful focusing on those heuristics or fear elements or other things. For me, it was not useful in a competition setting thinking about what perfect wave rides look like, because you're not going to get those waves in the heat. You get imperfect waves. Every wave is different, and you have to react to the wave. You can't project onto the wave. You just can't project onto the wave. And so even if I really want to do a 360, I'm then maybe trying to find the right wave that will look like it'll be open for a 360, and I try to find the section that will work. And sometimes that works, but it's not projecting onto the wave. It's finding the space in the wave and the wave itself where that's possible. So this is a huge theme. You can't project onto the wave. You've got to read the wave and do what it says to do. But that said, Max, I'd love to learn more about what kind of scripts you were working with and how it worked for you and whether it was useful. And that's just my 2 cents, that I think they're most useful if you're focusing on these like kind of more general heuristics, or fear, but also like looking at smooth water, getting the high five, getting the hand movements, going from power source to power source. Ragnar says, people say more knowledge means less fear. When I was younger, I was never hesitating, crashing hundreds of back loops and forwards. No coaching back then. With age and kids, I got more careful. Yeah, me too. I think as you get older, you take less risk or different kinds of risk. Like, I probably charge more in big waves, like riding the waves, because I have more knowledge and awareness in the waves. But I definitely take less risk jumping than when I was a teenager or in my early 20s. Like, I would just throw myself doing crazy things. I was going for double push loops, and I was, when Callie started doing the push forwards, I was like, oh, I have to learn this. And so I started doing the push forwards right away, and those crashes were so painful, but it just didn't matter somehow. And now, I'm less willing to put up with that pain or that risk, and I have a bit of fear and hesitation in my head, And it's something where, I ask myself, is this something I want to push myself through or not? And with a lot of the jumping, the answer is not. I don't need to do another push forward in my life. I've landed them, great, but I don't need to do that. I don't need to push through that fear. Wave riding is a different story. That's something that's closer to my heart, closer to what I really love in life, and it's just kind of this mastery that I've really enjoyed working on a lot more than the jumping. Not there's anything wrong with jumping. I also really like jumping, but my point is just, I'm less inclined to push the limits of the fear in the jumping than I am with the waves, and that's a choice that I make. That okay, this is an area that I'm working on, and this is an area that I'm not working on, that I don't care as much about. All right, so Max, that's interesting about the script. I'd love to hear more. Like, if you want to post more about that in the group, I think that would be something that's really interesting for the community. So, especially if it was useful for you. So I'd love to hear about, like, kind of, if you're comfortable sharing. I'd love to hear kind of what the script is and how you use it, what you found effective, what wasn't effective. These mental techniques, are so useful. Like, we all know what we need to do, right? But we don't do it because of something that's in our brain or our like neuromuscular system, right? One of the things I've been looking at recently, I've been trying to read a lot about coaching and psychology and fear and stuff so that I can better coach everyone here. And one of the things I was looking into last week and I keep looking into is like how we make our brains more plastic, how we're increasing neuroplasticity when we're older. Because like kids, so they've got a lot of plasticity in their brain, right? It's easy to learn. The brain changes easily, picks up new things. As we get older, that's harder to do, but there's different techniques that you can use to make your brain more plastic. So you've got more new connections, more new cells. Greg says that the less knowledge, the less fear. That might be true as well. All right. I think that's kind of a wrap. We've touched on a lot of different topics. Thomas is asking about backside 360s. We covered backside 360s really extensively in another live stream. I wonder if that's in the group. So, quick recap about the group. If you're not in the group, this is the Facebook group. If you want to contribute to the Facebook group, there's a PayPal link, which the donations go to running the group, buying the 360 camera, getting the different setup, mic, whatever, lights for these streams. And so every little bit helps. Cheers everyone who's donated. I've got an updated list somewhere, which I'll post in the group because you guys are awesome for helping keep this going. We also have in this about section here, somewhere here, we've got a link to let me find where the link is. I'll show you where it is on the page, but it's pretty awesome. Fabrice and Dom have put together a document. I don't know why it's so hard to find. I thought it was in the about section. Oh, yep. So I think I think this is it. So Fabrice set this up. So you can just follow this link and you've got this. So Fabrice and Dom contributed as well. So this is really great for looking through the past live streams. So here is a link to the backside 360s, Thomas, and then if whatever you guys are interested in, you can find the topics in here, and it will link to the YouTube video. this is a living document, so we're expanding it, and the community is really important in all that work. So thank you guys so much for doing that. And yeah, so you can find all these links to the past live streams, past topics. Yeah. All right. I think that's it for today. Looks like the trees are moving. The rain has maybe stopped, so I think I'm going to get on the water. And I'm going to let you guys get to bed in Europe. And I hope you've got a windy week ahead of you. And yeah, I'll see you next week. So like I said, I'm going to post, there's 2 clips that were sent to me from people who are not on Facebook. I'm going to post those in the group, and we can have some discussion on them and talk about them next week. If you have footage, if you have photos, if you have questions, if you have comments, post it in the Facebook group, and we'll go through the discussion. Thanks, Ragnar, for the kind words. Thanks, everyone, for showing up. You guys are what make this community great. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye. Have a great week, everyone.